Hey YouTube, what's going on? Hey, as I get ready to start this week with training, I realize I'm going to have some time while I'm in these classrooms and stuff, so I can actually spend a little bit of time and focus on my stocks and maybe do a little trading while I'm kind of blocking out and ignoring what's going on in this classroom setting. Basically, just like a middle school kid, I don't really want to be here. But that brings me to this kind of topic that I've had with Elon and Tesla. Maybe not a topic, maybe a bit of a issue, bug with them. That it for anybody that doesn't know, this week Tesla announced their first quarter earnings, I believe it was, or second quarter. Anyways, it was on Wednesday, and the stock took a massive dump in post-market during the earnings call. Even though it was fairly good news, I mean, they beat revenue, they did great on their deliveries. Cash burn is a bit of a concern, but people knew that. They were expecting those numbers. But the real reason that the stock dumped, and when I say dumped, we're talking $35 from the high that it hit in aftermarket trading to the low that it ended up being at. The main driver of this was Elon Musk. And the reason was he basically snubbed a Wall Street analyst, which when these calls happen, anybody can tune in and listen. But the only people that can actually ask questions are usually the big boy players. These analysts that cover Tesla, that's their bread and butter. They are billion-dollar hedge funds or whatever, and they queue up, and there's usually maybe 5 of them at the max that get a shot at asking a question. Usually it's two questions. And so this earnings call is completely different. The first one ever that somebody that wasn't a big boy player got to ask questions. And it was a YouTuber that had petitioned to be able to ask questions, which, okay, that's cool. I'm all for bringing in the little guy and giving them a shot. But the way Musk handled it was one of the analysts asked a question, and Musk said, "That's a boring question," and sidestepped it and went to this YouTuber and let the YouTuber ask roughly 25 questions. That's unheard of. That's absolutely unheard of. And so the stock market didn't like it. It dumped. And some of the issue around it is the question he sidestepped was in regards to gross margin on the Model 3. Because it has a high margin, but that was based on the level of autonomous building, the robots and all that they're having trouble with. So having to bring on more humans equals more labor equals what's that going to do to the margin? And that's a valid question, okay? But to me, at this point, my question is, does Elon have too much influence? Does what he say carry too much water? Because for the stock to react that way to what he said is insane. It really starts to feel like criminology of what he says, who's he's by, who is he standing by, his tweets, all of that. And it's really starting to feel disconnected from what the company is doing, what the company numbers are. And it's a little scary because it seems like the value of the company is tied to Elon and what he says and does and thinks, which I get it. There is some cross correlation there, but at some point, what happens if he gets removed, dies, something like that? I mean, there has to be some separation between the two, and unfortunately, whether you love it or hate it, Elon speaks kind of off the cuff most of the time. And for better or for worse, that can have massive swings in the market for Tesla. And so at this point, I really am kind of wondering, should he stay as the chairman of the board as well, because currently there is a vote coming up that is put forward to try to get him removed as chairman of the board, because with his shares of the company and the way everything is structured, he essentially cannot be outvoted. And that is a little troublesome. So it doesn't make him, I guess, responsible to his decisions, which if you look at a lot of stuff that Tesla does, if you look at a Model S or X, there's a lot in those vehicles, like the Model X, the Falcon Wing doors. That's what delayed the car by 2 years. And they rolled the car out and they magically introduced the summon technology, which almost null and voids the reason of the Falcon Wing doors. You know, getting in and out in hard to access parking spots. The Model S, that a lot of the interior design is very stark, very unbecoming of a $100,000 car. When you're coming from German engineering and you go to a Model S, there's Hondas and Kias that have better ergonomics on the inside, let's be honest. And a lot of that comes from Elon's influence, what he wants and what he expects. And unfortunately, what he wants and what he expects isn't what most people want. We will deal with it because we are happy about everything else in the car. And don't get me wrong, if I'm talking about the ergonomics and the interior design of a Tesla as being one of the biggest issues, that says a lot, that there's really no other issues that trump that. So that's pretty awesome. But still, at the end of the day, there's other issues that keep causing problems with Tesla, such as people canceling their orders because of the MCU update that just magically dropped, was slipstreamed in middle of production, and that was a massive change to the vehicle. It gave the vehicle a faster CPU, so maps rendered quicker, response time to the touchscreen was much faster, and you actually had an updated map system that is light years ahead of what the old systems were. But by slipstreaming it in, people wanted the new stuff, and so their car was ready at the service centers to be picked up. And they said, does it have the new MCU? No, it doesn't. Then no, I'm going to cancel it, and I'm going to reorder and get the new MCU. And so again, this idea from Elon of running everything as a tech company to where most of us, let's face it, are basically beta testers with a $100,000 car, and not having solid cutoffs. Because if you talk to anybody at Tesla, their motto is, we make the best car possible at any given moment. Okay, that sounds great, but by not having hard model year cutoffs, you're slipstreaming in all of these little micro updates and features, and they've done it over and over and over to where literally if you ordered a car a week later than when you did, you would have gotten Autopilot 2.0. You would have gotten whatever the refresh was. And it happens so many times that you're burning your customers. And mind you, this happens in the Silicon Valley, tech industry. How many times does Apple just slip in a new CPU into the model line without doing a massive reveal or massive update? Because it doesn't add that much more. But if you make your bread and butter off that computer, a new CPU that shaves 10 minutes off of your video rendering in a day, that's huge. That's worth it. But you can return that computer back to Best Buy. You can do multiple things to correct that situation. But when you buy a $100,000, $100,000+ Tesla, and they slipstream in an update 2 weeks after you got yours, it's just kind of like, sorry, sucks to be you, buddy. And you really don't have a lot of recourse because, again, that's a car. The minute you picked up those keys, it lost an untold amount of money, $5,000, $10,000. It really depends on what you're talking about, who you're selling it to. It makes it hard. It makes it really hard to sit here and look at Tesla and look at the Model 3, look at any of these cars and pull the trigger, because you literally almost want to sit back and wait for a massive media event, a keynote Steve Jobs style unveiling from Elon and Tesla about whatever the new latest and greatest hot item is before you pull the trigger. Because at any given moment, that new item could just be rolled out, and it may be big enough to deem a noteworthy keynote, or it might not be huge in their mind at all, like the MCU, and they just slip it in. Meanwhile, it ends up being massive. So I don't know, and I just feel like a lot of this is coming from Elon, and I get what he wants to do. He wants to make the best car possible, but as a consumer, I want to know this is the best car possible for the next 12 months. Does it fit my checklist of what I expect out of a vehicle? Yes or no? If no, let me wait for the next 12 months to pass, and I'll see if the next version, 2.0, 2.5, 3.0, addresses some of the issues that I'm lacking. That makes it so much easier. But I think it's a disconnect between how much money these cars cost, how much energy and effort it takes to make that kind of money, and it's a commitment. It's a car. So at the end of the day, I love Elon, but I also kind of hate Elon in some ways. And I think that's a lot of us. We love to hate, and we see that over and over, like Steve Jobs, same thing. You love to hate him sometimes. Don't get me wrong, Elon's really done a lot of great things, but I think they're 80% of the way. That last 20%, there's a lot that could be done to really make Tesla on par with the rest of the auto industry as far as knowing that you're getting the best car, making that purchase decision a lot easier and not just guessing. And this even comes back to getting your car serviced, where there's micro changes in every car throughout the year. It becomes hard when you're talking to the service center because they don't know if you have the latest air conditioner pump or whatnot, because it's just slipstreamed in. So it becomes a nightmare all the way around. They need to do hard model years to simplify it for everyone. Anyways, guys, that's just my little micro Tesla rant. There's going to be a few rants in here and some kind of complaining, but complaining with reason. Other than that, hey, I appreciate your time to look at the video and watch me get better at trying to record this and get more comfortable with speaking to a camera, because normally if I produce anything, it's just via, voice. And that's always so much easier to do. You're not actually, front and center. Anyways, thanks so much, guys. We'll talk to you soon.